But we begin with Donald Trump and Pope Leo, two of the most influential people on the planet, each with the ability to shape history with what they say, now saying quite a lot about each other. And it's getting personal. Pope Leo has made clear his opposition to the president's war in Iran, urging Americans to ask their leaders for peace and describing the president's recent threat to wipe out Iranian civilization as truly unacceptable. Now the president has commented back, saying the Pope should, quote, get his act together and stop catering to the radical left. He also posted this image of himself in the likeness of Jesus Christ before deleting it without apology. The feud continued today, and it grew with the Pope beginning a 10-day tour of Africa, saying, quote, I have no fear of the Trump administration. Now, the president started posting about the Pope shortly after Norah O'Donnell's 60 Minutes report on the subject last night. And Norah, you join me now. I don't think that was a coincidence. And you just got off the phone with the president. What did he have to say?
And the president confirmed he was watching our 60-minute report. The president in our conversation is doubling down on his condemnation of Pope Leo, saying he's wrong on the issues, should not be getting into politics, and he has no plans to call the Holy Father. Now, as for Pope Leo, he had his own message for the president today.
I have no fear of neither the Trump administration nor speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel.
Aboard the papal plane today, Pope Leo refused to back down, following President Trump's unprecedented insults.
I do not look at my role as being politician. I don't want to get into a debate with him.
But that's exactly what he's done. In a lengthy post on Truth Social Sunday night, President Trump called the Pope weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy. That post came after the president watched our 60 Minutes interview with three influential American cardinals who echoed Pope Leo's recent criticisms of the president's war with Iran and the policy of mass deportation. Is this a just war?
No. Under Catholic teaching, this is not a just war. Catholic faith teaches us there are certain prerequisites for a just war. You can't go for a variety of different aims. You have to have a focus aim, which is to restore justice and restore peace. That's it.
Tensions between the White House and the Vatican have been mounting for months. This was discussed during the campaign. It was widely discussed. And yet President Trump won the Catholic vote over Kamala Harris handily, 55 to 43%. He promised to secure the border. He talked about deportation, and a majority of Catholics voted for the policy.
I would like to know what Catholics feel about this indiscriminate mass deportation. I think that it's very clear the American people are saying we really didn't vote for this.
After widespread backlash, including from Christian conservatives, the president today refused to apologize to Pope Leo.
Pope Leo said things that are wrong. He was very much against what I'm doing with regard to Iran, and you cannot have a nuclear Iran.
And Tony, you mentioned that photo that President Trump posted showing himself as a Jesus-like figure. Well, the president told me just moments ago he was surprised by the outrage that it caused and thought he was being depicted as a doctor by a, quote, very beautiful, talented artist. The image appears to be AI generated. Now, even members of the Christian right who typically support the president were offended, calling it, quote, inappropriate and blasphemous. One of the president's closest supporters said, quote, God shall not be mocked. But it's clear the president heard the message because he took that picture down without apology.
Without apology. Very rare for the president to backtrack in any way. And so that's a clear example of that. Now let's go back to Pope Leo, first American pope. Is there any indication that he will come here to America to make his case?
I asked President Trump that specifically, and he said it's up to him. But look, there is a rift in their relationship. If Pope Leo were to ever come to the United States, he would have to meet the head of the state, President Trump. As of today, that relationship is frayed.
Norah O'Donnell, extraordinary reporting, really.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. And of course, as we mentioned, this is happening as the Pope starts a four-nation swing through Africa. Now, popes often try to avoid controversies on such a trip, but that's not how this one's playing out. Foreign correspondent Chris Livesay is traveling with the Pope and has more from his first stop in Algeria. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening. Well, clashes between popes and presidents are nothing new, but they've almost always been handled quietly. Things started to change in 2016 against the backdrop of President Trump's immigration policy. Pope Francis said building walls is not Christian. Trump called it disgraceful to question someone's faith like that. But what culminated last night on Truth Social goes further. One Vatican expert told me that never in the history of U.S.-Vatican relations has a clash been so visceral and so public. And the timing matters. Pope Leo responded just hours after Trump's remarks, breaking with tradition. Popes typically only engage with journalists at the end of a trip to avoid overshadowing the trip itself. To stand his ground at the start of this trip, before the plane had even landed, suggests just how important it was for Pope Leo to double down on his message of peace. Tony?
Chris Livesay in Algeria. Chris, thank you very much.